This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Good morning, North America, good afternoon, Europe, and good evening to everyone joining us from India. This is US Election Watch. I'm Allister in Washington, D.C. The headlines. The final countdown to the high-stakes showdown. Trump and Harris set to face off in their first presidential debate. A government shutdown looms as Congress faces a funding fight. Democratic lawmakers say funding is being weaponized by the Republicans. JFK Jr. to be dropped from North Carolina's ballots, but loses his fight to withdraw from the Michigan ballot. US rock band White Stripes sues Trump for the use of their hit song, accuses the Trump campaign of a flagrant misappropriation. Our top story tonight, for the first time, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump will look each other in the eye. They will come face to face in what may be the only debate before the election day on November 5th here in the United States. In the first debate between Trump and Joe Biden, 50 million Americans tuned in to watch what was really the most watched moment of the 2024 presidential race. That could well be surpassed tonight. An estimated 80 million Americans are expected to see Trump and Harris take each other on. NDTV's Vishal Vivek on the lead-up and what to expect from tonight's showdown.
Now compare what Donald Trump plans to do. He wants to impose what is, in effect, a national sales tax on everyday products and basic necessities that we import from other countries.
They have traded barbs.
Kamala Harris is a radical California liberal who broke the economy, broke the border, and broke the world, frankly.
And attacked each other over policies and other issues. Now, the time has come for a showdown, as the theatrics will culminate into their first presidential debate when the ABC News hosts them for one of the most important nights in the election race. According to reports, the former president has been reviewing policy positions with advisors in the lead-up to the debate. Other reports suggest that Trump has been fine-tuning the theatrics of his performance. He has experience on his side, as he has already been on a presidential debate stage 6 times. His confidence was palpable when he said last week that he's been preparing all his life for this debate. On the other hand, this is Kamala Harris's presidential debate debut, with just a few weeks to prepare for the big event. Harris has spent the past week in a Pennsylvania hotel, going through policy books. To counter Trump's expected theatrics, the Harris team has reportedly built a mock television stage, which is fully fitted with a debate podium and has a proper lighting. According to reports, top advisors are playing the role of Trump, even dressing up like the 78-year-old.
This idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. You don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor and have him decide on.
Traditionally, viewers have focused more on candidates that unnerve their opponents or seem more confident, with policy proposals not playing a big role. When Trump and Harris have a go at each other, America and the rest of the world will be watching closely for signs of confidence. With Vishal Vivek, Bureau Report, NDTV World.
Okay, so time to debate the debate here on NDTV US Election Watch. Rachel Dean Wilson with the German Marshall Fund, a think tank, joining us. Rachel is also former communications director for the late US Senator John McCain. We also have Zinia Bell. She's a journalist and professor. Thank you very much for joining us here this morning. Rachel, first to you. Kamala Harris has been really on a euphoric run, a high after Joe Biden stepped aside, but the polls show that she really hasn't been able to make bigger strides, surge past Donald Trump. The criticism remains. Voters don't know who she is. She needs to better define herself. We hear this over and over again, and tonight is a chance to do that. But what really does that mean? What does it mean for her to define herself for American voters?
Absolutely. The importance of tonight can't be understated. This may be the only opportunity that voters get to see both candidates debate one another together on stage, duking it out on the issues. For Trump, the bar is pretty low in that, or relatively low, in that he needs to show up and look somewhat presidential, not remind voters of kind of the most chaotic version of Trump. And for Harris, the bar is higher. It's a little more complicated. She is new to the ticket. She had the opportunity to introduce herself to the country, which may seem funny as a sitting vice president, but she does not have, really, she's not as well known as the former president Trump is to the US electorate. And so she really did have this opportunity to introduce herself at the convention. But that's a very scripted uh, platform, and you get to tell your story exactly the way you want to tell it, which is a great opportunity that both of the candidates have. And this is a completely different setup where she is going to have to show and tell the American people who she is. On the telling part, I think she's most effective when she's talking about how she is going to be a president for everyone and focusing in on the economy. And I think on the showing part, it's really going to be how she is interacting with Donald Trump. And so there is a fine balance there. She doesn't want to get out over her skis in aggressiveness if he is going to play it safe and calm and cool and collected. And so she really has to be in a position where she is able to kind of shift strategies depending on what she's getting from her debate opponent.
Right, Asenia, what about you? What are you hoping to hear from Kamala Harris tonight?
So firstly, I'm very excited for this debate, and I'm going to start off with actually talking about the Siena Times poll, which shows that both the candidates, Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump, are pretty much neck to neck, specifically in the key swing states, right? And when we talk about the key swing states, we also have to talk about the policies and what the viewers want to hear from both these presidential candidates, right? One is a vice president. Of course, she is coming fresh to this presidential debate. This is her first presidential debate. We've seen her with Pence in the vice president debate that we saw in the last election. And then on the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who's at this point, I'd like to call him a veteran for presidential debates, right? We all remember how he targeted Hillary Clinton, calling her a nasty woman, and then also he said that he's going to send her to jail. So it's going to be very interesting how this plays out, right? Will he attack her specifically on policies with regards to economy, inflation, immigration, abortion, social security, Medicare? All these are internal issues. Foreign affairs with regards to, of course, the war in Ukraine, the war in Gaza, right? Their stance on Israel for both the candidates. That's what voters want to hear about, right? We are unclear currently regarding Trump's stance on quite a few key policy-related issues. His issues on, we know about taxation, but let's say childcare, for example, which is very important, very relevant to a very large voter base. We know about his stance on immigration, right? He wants to continue to build the wall if he comes to power. But with Kamala Harris, right, she's kind of followed pretty much what the Biden administration has implemented. And the question remains as to whether she will distance herself somewhat from some of Biden's policies, whether she will completely agree with him, whether she'll be in complete alignment, how she's going to do things differently, whether she's going to answer those questions. Of course, it remains to be seen. But, the last debate between Biden and Trump was watched by 50 million viewers. Let's see, will this break the Super Bowl record?
Well, apparently 80 million this time, if those estimates are to be believed. Rachel, talking about Trump's strategies, right? Zina alluded to that as well. One of the things that we're likely going to see, he's going to try and link Harris deeply with Biden. She's just a continuation of the Biden presidency, not this breath of fresh air in terms of a new start and change that Americans want to see. So on the debate stage, how is Trump going to try and define Harris for the world?
Yeah, and they really are in this battle, both Harris and Trump, to define Harris as a candidate. And so you're going to see that play out on the debate stage tonight. From Trump's perspective, what he needs to do is list unpopular Biden administration policies, be it in on the border or on the economy, inflation, and tie Harris to that strongly to the administration. You were there the entire time. You were a critical part of this administration, and present her as not a change agent, but a continuation of the way Americans feel right now about the challenges in this country. Mm-hmm. And there's a feeling that those are immense. So who is going to change the equation? Both candidates want to be the answer to that question, and we'll see who comes out on top tonight.
Right. Senior, Harris speaks charismatically to large crowds. Her supporters seem to love her. She's riding on that high. But she's often doing that with a teleprompter, prepared script. When it comes to actually speaking off the cuff, and of course there'll be no notes tonight, no teleprompter at the debate. She's debated before, but not with Donald Trump, and certainly not a presidential debate. Any worries there about how she's going to be able to tackle Trump off the cuff?
That's a great question, Allister, and that's something that I have been thinking about, going through some of her previous debates. A lot of, what she said during her campaign, what she even said during the interview with CNN's Dana Bash has been primarily scripted, right? There have been some flip-flops on policy, for example, her stance on fracking, but it's going to be interesting to see how, she tackles Trump's one-liners, right? What she might say to his barbs. Her administration did push for unmuted mics, but unfortunately that did not happen. And as was noted in your show, and as has been reported, that Trump campaign has been preparing aggressively, especially to target Kamala Harris with regards to policy and the policies that have been implemented by the Biden administration, right? And let's not forget what Tulsi Gabbard said about Harris, and she stated that Harris needs to apologize for being for her work as a public prosecutor in California, putting over 1,400 people in prison and unfairly targeting Black and brown, immigrants, and of course, criminals. So, well, I would correct that word, Black and brown people, right? Unfairly targeting those. So let's see how, Trump questions Harris and questions her with regards to her record as a public prosecutor, with regards to her flip-flop on policies on, issues such as fracking. And also, let's see how the debate pans out when it comes to abortion. But given Harris's record as being, as you said, a charismatic leader, somebody who is very articulate, right? Especially given the performance that we saw from Joe Biden in the last presidential debate, I think that Harris will be able to successfully combat Trump, and bring the focus to policies and bring the focus to what the voters and viewership actually want to hear about, right? I mean, we've seen all his social media messages calling Kamala Kambala and lying Kamala and all the misogynistic comments. But of course, his team has told him to dial that back and not do a repeat of 2016. And actually, the Kamala Harris, I read in New York Times that Kamala Harris's administration is really hoping that we see a repeat of 2016 so that she can, combat him and provide those one-liners that she's very famous for too, right? So let's
Indeed,
let's
and
see
that's
how
what
it
they're
goes.
kind of hoping for, right, Rachel? A repeat of a very, very emotional Trump going on to a rant, because according to reports, Trump has, in fact, privately acknowledged how his first 2020 debate, the 2020 debate, not the most recent one, with Joe Biden, didn't go down well. If you recall, he repeatedly spoke over Biden. Biden famously said to him, "Will you shut up, man?" And then soon after that debate, Trump's polling numbers declined after that first debate there. Now, given Trump's dislike for Harris, do you think he's going to keep his emotions in check? Because he really needs to come across as presidential.
He does need to come across as presidential. One thing I do want to make clear, though, from a campaign strategy perspective, both campaigns, part of the strategy is to goad the candidates in their campaigns. So even the Harris campaign is doing this with ads targeting Donald Trump specifically to kind of rile him up before tonight, hoping that they can amp up the conversation and the public pressure so much so that he will have a 2016 moment. I think if the Donald Trump that showed up against Joe Biden shows up tonight, that the Harris campaign is in trouble, because there were so many opportunities during that debate with Joe Biden where Trump could have, made the story about himself, and he really reined it in. So if there's a reined in Trump tonight, I think that is a more difficult situation for Harris to react to than if he is more of the 2016 version where he's cutting people off. Now, there's a muted mic
Right.
in between questions and answers, so he will not be able to just ramrod anyone who's speaking. I mean, I remember watching, the 2020
Yeah.
debate. I remember watching the 2020 debate, and I thought, well, we've ruined presidential debates from this point forward, because it was actually unwatchable. And so I think we might get around some of that with this this format tonight. And it proved me wrong, because the debate
Right.
Biden and Trump was more consequential than almost any debate before it. So yes, we will have to see what comes tonight.
Right. Okay, so Rachel, Zena, do stay with us. We want to get your reaction on an unfolding story now. Democrats accusing Republicans of weaponizing government funding. So what's going on? Well, funding for the US government runs out on September the 30th for ordinary Americans. A shutdown would mean closing things like national parks, limiting other public services, and furloughing millions of workers just before the elections. Now, former President Donald Trump's urging Republicans to force a shutdown unless certain demands are met. In order to agree to the funding the government, House Republicans want legislation requiring people to prove U.S. citizenship when they register to vote. Now, quite an interesting development there over the last few days. Xenia, foreigner voting in the US federal election is extremely rare. Besides, it is already against the law for non-citizens to vote in federal elections. Do you agree that the whole issue here is, as the Democrats would say, being weaponized just weeks before the elections?
Yes,
Definitely.
absolutely. I mean, my apologies. Was that a question for me? I can let my fellow panelists speak first. Go ahead, Rachel. Go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. I will say this is definitely playing politics ahead of the elections, but that's what they do really well on the Hill. We're used to almost shut down every 6 months or so now, and both parties play their part, and they do some political maneuvering. But at the end of the day, I am not concerned about a shutdown actually taking place, because it does not benefit anyone, but particularly the Republicans going into election season to shut down the government. On the legislation and the voting piece of this, non-citizen voting is not a big issue in the United States. But there has been an effort to spin that up, which I do find concerning, because you're talking about the issue of immigration, which is incredibly hot button, and our election administration, and our election administrators are under a lot of pressure right now. And so, we would like to bring down the temperature on the non-citizen voting. This definitely amps up the temperature on the non-citizen voting. But on a baseline voter ID, kind of have your ID to vote in U.S. elections, it's a very popular concept with the American public. So that's why it puts Democrats in a tricky position.
Right. Azealia, you heard Rachel there. She's not to worry about how this is going to play out, but what do you think? We've seen how previous shutdowns are always down to the wire at the last moment. You know, either side agrees to some concessions and then the funding proceeds. But this time around, I was just wondering, because Democrats will have to tiptoe rather carefully. There could be voter backlash if they disagree to the Republicans' demands, no matter what the reality is on illegal voters, so to speak. It's the perception that matters going into the polling day.
Yes, absolutely. You know, Allister, as you said, and my fellow panelist, definitely about the perception that matters, right? Let me read out what Republicans are, harping over, and what the actual issue is, right? From AP News, which is that Republicans are adding a hot button immigration issue to the measure by requiring states to obtain proof of citizenship, such as birth certificate or passport, when someone registers to vote. I think it goes back to, right, the debate about immigration and, right, a porous border that the United States shares, and a lot of immigration, not just from Mexico, but from Central America, right? That's been a big issue in this election. And I'm going to actually show you this flyer that had been dropped off at my residence, if I can put it up to the camera. And one of the big issues here, this is for advertising for the Republican Party, paid for by Donald Trump's campaign. And it states that immigration is one of the bigger issues, right? A porous border. So, of course, this is going to interestingly play out as we talk about government funding, though we see the Congress and, bipartisan sort of debate regarding federal funding. We've seen it play out many a times in the media through election cycles that we've all experienced. So it's nothing new that there has been debate, but bringing up the issue of immigration, of course, it definitely is kind of a continuation of Donald Trump's campaign and the constant debate and discussion about immigration and how Republicans are targeting Democrats for having that porous border and not doing enough to secure our borders.
Rachel and Xenia, thank you so much for your time this morning. Really appreciate it. In other news now, time to have a quick look at the polls. The US election remains neck and neck with a tight race in key battleground states. Democratic nominee Kamala Harris is leading in one significant area, the excitement factor. A new CBS News poll shows Democrats in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin are more enthusiastic about Harris's campaign than Republicans are about Trump's. Now, specifically, nearly 90% of Democrats in Michigan, not far behind, is Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, that are riding that Harris high. In comparison, 78% of Republicans in Michigan are excited about Trump's campaign. That number slightly lower in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. Now, in North Carolina, the Supreme Court there has ruled that Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s name must be removed from election ballots, denying an appeal from the State Board of Elections that sought to keep him on the ballot. Local election officials estimate redesigning, printing, and preparing new ballots without Kennedy's name will delay the process of sending them out by at least 2 weeks and will cost the county offices over $1 million.
That it's time to heal a divided nation and return the power to the people. Robert Kennedy Jr.
North Carolina's Supreme Court has ruled that Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s name will be removed from the state ballot. The Republican Party-controlled court, in a 4-3 decision, wrote that having accurate ballots is more important than the costs and delays owing to reprinting the state's ballots. Earlier, the Democratic-controlled State Board of Elections had rejected Kennedy's request to remove his name from the ballot. The board has said that it wouldn't be practical to reprint ballots and delay the start of voting. RFK Jr. suspended his independent campaign for the White House last month and backed Donald Trump, a shake-up that could have given the former president a modest boost from Kennedy's supporters. Experts had said that RFK Jr. had potential to tip scales in battleground states such as Michigan.
He is a great person. I've known him for so long. For the past 16 months, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Don't you want a president who's going to protect America's freedoms? And who is going to protect us against totalitarianism? And I want to ask you again, don't you want a safe environment for your children?
While North Carolina court ordered the removal of Kennedy's name from the state ballots, the top court of Michigan ruled that his name must remain on the state's ballot. So why is RFK Jr. seeking to remove his name from the ballot in competitive states? The answer is quite obvious. Kennedy intends to boost the former president's chances of winning these states. In a total reversal from his previous stance, Kennedy has told his supporters to back Trump no matter what state they live in. Vishal Vivek reports for NDTV World, Bureau Report.
That's it for US Election Watch. I'm Allister D'Souza in Washington, D.C.
Whoever you are, and whatever might happen, Remitly money transfers keep life moving. Because it's more than a transaction. It's a connection, a hug, or a hello, what's happening here? Send money to South Asia with Remitly. Send money that moves them. Download the Remitly app.
With II's low flat pension fees, you could retire with more.
Really?
Open an interactive investor personal pension today.
Remember this? Can't believe we didn't always wear sun cream.
I know, right? We were too busy having fun.
Number 7's Future Renew Serum, clinically proven to reverse visible signs of sun damage with a world-first peptide technology. 3 for 2 on Number 7 Future Renew, available at Boots.
Whatever you need to ask about cancer, Macmillan's free support line is just a call away.
Hello, Macmillan.
Whether it's money or work worries.
Am I going to lose my job?
Getting on with life.
Can I still go abroad? Get insurance?
Or just need someone to listen.
How do I tell them?
Our specialist advisors are here to help as often as you need them. Whatever you need to ask, cancer, work, money, life, call us now on 0808 134 1000.
Mindful Chef. Food to help you feel great. Try Mindful Chef now with 25% off your first 4 boxes. Healthy eating made easy at mindfulchef.com.
Ever wondered if there's a better way to explore Europe? Or whether you'll ever grow tired of waking up to views like this? Ever wondered what inspired history's most revered artists? Or which new local delicacy you might choose on board each evening? With a superior drinks package included on all our luxury European river cruises, ever wondered what you'll raise a glass to first? Wonder no more. Book today with Riviera Travel and stay forever curious.
Do you need to borrow money for home improvements, a car, or paying off debts? Then you've come to the right place. Everyday Loans. Just tell us how much you want to borrow, up to £15,000. At Everyday Loans, we offer a service that's friendly and reliable. Apply online or on your phone. So whatever your credit record, apply now at everydayloans.co.uk. Awarded Best Customer Service at the 2023 Moneyfax Consumer Awards. Representative APR 99.9%.
Discover the finest quality made-to-measure window dressings delivered direct to your door. Shop now for an extra 20% off at blindsdirect.co.uk.
The Monopoly game is back at McDonald's. There's more ways to win and over 70 million prizes up for grabs, including 100 grand in cash. McDonald's Monopoly Power Peel.
It's great to be helping out before my first grandchild arrives. And after having a few repairs myself, I need to make sure they'll all be protected. Which reminds me.
Welcome to British Seniors, the UK's #1 rated provider of over 50s life insurance.
Hi, I'd like a quick quote.
No problem. We're proud to offer our seniors lifetime guarantee. With 100% of claims having been paid, we guarantee your premiums will never go up and that you'll speak to one of our specialists in the UK. UK residents aged 50 to 80 are guaranteed to be accepted. Depending on your age, your loved ones can get a cash payout up to £10,000.
Wow, that money could help with funeral costs or as a gift for my grandkid. I'll do it.
Plus, when you sign up, you'll receive a £135 gift card and free 24/7 GP advice and health services.
He's going to be named after his granddad.
Be proud to protect your loved ones with British Seniors. To get a free quote today, call our UK team on 0800 470 4444 or visit britishseniors.co.uk.
Deeply worrying trend of armed drones entering into the conflict and its huge security implications. And finally, looking ahead at what may turn out to be a make or break moment in the US election campaign early tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. You don't want to miss it right here on NDTV. Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump, who face off in a huge televised presidential debate. Kamala Harris was narrowly ahead in the opinion polls, though there is now a sense that that lead may just have plateaued out. This seems to be possibly or among the closest US elections ever. That's what the sense is in all of this. But first, let's quickly take a look at the headlines that we are tracking. An Indian Air Force woman officer accuses a senior officer at the Srinagar Air Base of rape. An FIR is filed with the police who are investigating. She alleges that there's been a systemic attempt at denying her the justice which she says she deserves. In Nagpur, a hit and run by the BJP chief's son, whose Audi car hit several vehicles, injuring 2 people. While the driver is arrested, the BJP leader's son, Sanket Bhawankule, flees. No mention of the car owner's name in the FIR. And the CBI arrests 2 people, including the senior environmental engineer of the Delhi Pollution Control Committee, for taking bribes for giving approvals to private firms in the capital. But let's quickly move on now to our top story, which we are tracking, and that is the situation in Bengal. And today's been a particularly challenging day, with doctors defying what the Supreme Court had said. Remember, the Supreme Court had said 5 p.m. please return to work. But the doctors say that no, our demands must be met first. The state government has been reaching out to the doctors, but for now, they continue to be on a strike or on a protest. The health situation perhaps being impacted, but where is justice for the rape murder victim?
Mamata government versus protesting doctors. A pitched battle with anger among junior doctors spilling onto the streets of Kolkata. Even defying the top court's deadline to rejoin work.
At 6:10 p.m., email was sent to them by the Principal Secretary Health, requesting them to come, 10 of them, to come to Nabanno and to talk to the supreme authority of the state administration. Till 7:30, our Honorable Chief Minister had waited, but nothing came from the end of the agitating doctors.
वो चाहते हैं कि आप हम आए नवन्ना 10 लोगों को लेकर रिप्रेजेंटेटिव को लेकर आए और वहाँ पे उनके साथ मीटिंग करें, जबकि हमारी डिमांड्स क्लियर हैं और हम लोग 31 दिन से ये प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं। कॉमन लोग, साधारण लोग भी जानते हैं कि हमारी डिमांड क्या है। तो आप हम जब यहाँ पे बैठे हुए हैं तो आप हमें कहीं और क्यों बुला रहे हैं और 10 लोगों को क्यों बुला रहे हैं? यहाँ तो इतने मेडिकल कॉलेज के रिप्रेजेंटेटिव मौजूद हैं, आप प्रॉपरली कम्युनिकेट करिए हमारे साथ।
Slippers were shown to former principal of Arjikar Hospital Sandeep Ghosh as he was taken away into judicial custody till 23rd of September in the financial irregularities case that the CBI is investigating. A key demand of the protesting doctors is the removal of the Kolkata Police Commissioner, Health Secretary, Director of Health Services and the Director of Medical Education by 5 p.m. on Tuesday. The deadline given to them by the Supreme Court. No action so far has been taken.
जब तक हम लोगों का डिमांड जो है वो फुलफिल नहीं होता है तब तक हम लोग इधर ही बैठे रहेंगे। यहाँ पे हम लोगों का एक स्पेसिफिक डिमांड है और ये हम लोगों का जो मूवमेंट है उसका कुछ डिमांड है। अभी इधर हम लोग आए हैं DME, DHS और प्रिंसिपल हेल्थ सेक्रेटरी मिस्टर नारायण स्वरूप निगम, उनका हम लोग रेजिग्नेशन डिमांड कर रहे हैं। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इससे पहले भी जो बोला था कि वो डॉक्टर मूवमेंट के साथ हैं, वो चाहते हैं कि सारे जो अथॉरिटीज़ हैं, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट को उन्होंने डायरेक्ट भी किया था कि डॉक्टर्स के साथ फॉर्मली बात किया जाए हम लोगों को डिमांड को लेकर, वो माना नहीं गया है।
After gifting a medical model of spine to the Kolkata Police Commissioner Vineet Goyal, protesting doctors now bring a model of a brain to Swasthya Bhavan. Remember, the Mamata government assured the Supreme Court no disciplinary action will be